No, come on, you goof.
It wants you to rotate your phone.
Not rotating.
We live?
We are.
We are live again. 3D Politics once again on a Monday night. I've got two out of the three Davids, the most important Davids, right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I got David.
Wait a minute. Last week they were the most important Davids.
Look, I just keep it rolling as fast as I can.
3D Politics.
David Oldham and David D'Ambroso. David Van is out on exciting assignment tonight. And we have a very exciting show for you lined up. But first, you should know, get in touch with David Oldham right here at constitutionalgrounds.org. No.
Orcom.
Constitutionalgrounds.org, Orcom, and of course, David D'Ambroso at Dave D'Ambroso right there on Facebook. I'm Tom McKay, your fantastic host for 3D Politics. We're going to talk about TPS slashing their budget. $22 million, according to Deborah Gist. Also, there's boobs on the trail out there. Ladies lifting their shirts and going skating all day long. Very exciting. And, of course, the dreaded white OK sign. Made you look. Get ready for a collective punch in the arm. And also, I want you viewers out there to help me be looking for crazy things that the Democrats say, like climate change, which is literally redundant, and things like ending endless wars that Pete Buttigieg says. All those crazy things, and climate change and endless wars. And of course, Nancy Pelosi recently said she wants a word for word transcript, which is literally what a transcript is. Word for word. You guys don't care what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're doing technical stuff since David Van's gone.
This is crazy.
He's our techie.
Tap dancing, you guys.
He's the one that sets up all those editorial boards where he personally writes hundreds and hundreds of articles.
Maybe you can help me here. Dr. Gist, the Tulsa Public Schools superintendent. She has said that they are $100 million, I think, less funding from last year. Even if her numbers are correct, it's a minuscule amount from the $5 billion budget that they get each year in the state.
That's bigger than GDP of a lot of countries.
It's amazing what they have. The idea for Deborah Gist is that her job, she thinks, is to continue to lobby for more money for education. She is paid to manage the $22 million shortfall, and so she set up a series of meetings with the public. And the last one here was at Edison Preparatory School. They got a $20 million budget, and she says the number one suggestion so far from the public has been to cut administrative office, which really isn't an option anymore. She says, quote, "We've already made reductions at that level, and the folks people want to make a cut back on, people like me. Unfortunately, it can't."
Well, that's never going to happen. That's what she just said.
I thought I was funny. Deborah Gist is funny.
From her mouth to God's ears.
Unfortunately, it can't be addressed by things that can't be felt by the whole system.
In other words, since her pay is so great, and not everybody can take a cut, and she won't take a cut unless everybody takes a cut.
Well, her suggestion here is that her salary cannot be felt by the whole system, which would make
it's a bunch
question,
of gobbledygook.
Why would we pay Deborah Gist however much she gets paid, and it's a lot, if whatever she's doing can't be felt by the whole system, according to her own words? Somebody help.
Well, actually, she's making my point for me.
What is it?
Well, I've been saying for a while now that public education, tax-funded public schooling, is unconstitutional. It is illegal. Why? Because it robs each of us of our individual rights. If we have rights, then they are unalienable. They cannot be voted away and confiscated by somebody else.
Right.
And property, when it can just be declared by a vote of a few people who show up to vote on the weird month elections for bond measures, then puts you in And,
It's sideways, we know. But please comment that it's sideways, because that will jack up the algorithm and cause more of your friends to see this video. Please let us know if you see it sideways.
Should we all lean like so?
Because if you flip your phone the other direction, it'll
work fine.
Make it go sideways.
I bet the sound is great.
Yeah,
let
us know.
Let us know.
They can't hear
So,
us.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
So here's the thing. Because it robs you of your individual right, and choice is part of that right. If you want to give your money or not give your money to Deborah Gist, you have that right. They have declared you do not have that right, and they are forcing us to pay these taxes, whether it be on your home, on your property, on your via sales tax, etc. They're collecting these taxes from us and making out like that they're legal, and there's nothing lawful about it. What she is saying comes directly from that thought process. Hey, if we have the right, then she has the right to declare that she can make as much as she wants. And the sky's the limit. It's a slippery slope.
I think she does have the right. So you're going to have to bear with me. I don't know that I can pronounce these words because I went to public school. But Deborah said that I belong to some kind of group called the Proletariat. And
the proletariat?
And,
you're a prole, are you?
Or no, I got that backwards. Of course, it's the public school again. She's bougie. Bourgeois.
Oh yeah, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Bourgeois.
Yes.
And so she gets to take all my stuff from me because I had too much.
The thing is, instead of, like, we have hired her to manage this problem. So she is having these
Speak for yourself. We did not hire her.
All right, just let me roll.
I don't understand. We're bourgeois. Apparently, we're the ruling class. Which, mind you, this language is so dangerous because it's no different than what Hitler outlined.
We may never get out of tonight.
We're not. And the problem is, it's the Marxist class system. It's just, you want to make it fascist or you want to make it Marxist. It's unnamed rich people in Marxism, or it's Jewish rich people if it's National Socialism. So we make so much money that she gets to take it away from us and use it any way she wants. She gets to expropriate it. But here's the crazy thing. I think we all make less money than she does. So how are we the bourgeois? I think she makes $180,000 a year.
Oh no, try double that.
Yeah, I don't make $180,000 a year.
I think it's double that.
Philosophically speaking, here at the higher level, we have hired her or elected her to manage this problem. And just like Barisi did, where she hired somebody to do the testing, I don't know why we would elect somebody that's going to hire somebody to go look for a company to do what we hired that person to do in the first place. So here is Deborah Gist. She's trying to run the Tulsa Public Schools. She's got a $22 million shortfall. And she runs these community meetings to bring together community people to help her figure it out.
It's the model of efficiency.
I don't know why we hired her if she's going to have to ask the public for help. Now, instead of...
Sounds like the mayor trying to hire a board
to
show him how to do his job and keep his oath.
You'll see me agree with the mayor later tonight on boobs.
And sadly, I will too.
The thing is, with Deborah Gist, she brings together these community desperados that are looking to try to fix the problem. All these, really, they're concerned members of the public that are duped into thinking they're going there to give their ideas about how to fix the problem. They have given their ideas, and they said, cut the administrative pay. And she said, relatively speaking, you can't cut me. So she says in a Channel 6 interview that she does an exercise with the parents where they all sit down and have a group meeting at the table, and she gives them a $20 budget. And then she gives them a list of things that they can buy with their $20. And it's an exercise for the parents to learn to relative cuts, how to do relative budgeting, because she gives them a list of things and some of it will cost 25 cents, Some of it'll cost 50, but
It's
the
like the new
table.
math. This is like the core math.
No, this is
Do
just
they end up
basically-
spending $50 like she does?
It is an elementary school education exercise for children that Deborah Gist is pushing on the parents.
So wait,
It's nothing more than a Rorschach test to see what is important for these people. And she talks about relative cuts, and the fact is they have made their statement. Cut the administration.
Well,
But
that's
relatively speaking, Dr. Gist doesn't see that as an option,
Well-
even though the public does.
And there's good reason that she doesn't see it as an option. That's her pay. I mean, she has every motive in the world to not recognize it as an option.
$5 billion budget, you said?
Oh no,
million.
No, the state. The reference was to the state budget, is like $5 billion a year or something like that. Well, here you go.
It's half the state spending.
Vamp for
This
me.
is education.
Yes.
Yeah, so $2.5 billion. Yeah.
Well, no.
Well, here's 2012 Oklahoma per pupil spending. 2012 $76.98. That's $7,698, and it goes up to $77.96 in 2013, and it goes up again in 2014 per pupil spending $7,829. And so also from the Oklahoma Regions for Higher Education 2016 annual report, 5-year trend from 2012 to 2016, student scores by subject for ACT, English scores down, math scores down, reading scores down, science scores down, and that's after a performance of 40-year trend from 72 to 2012 of increased spending at state and federal levels, 0 associated increase in SAT scores nationally or at the state level. That's K12.org.
Yeah, our national tests have been going down. Our scores have been going down since the 1960s. I mean, over 60 years now.
Well, actually, you have to understand. I just watched a great video that I'm going to be sharing that talks about that is the exact purpose of school. It is not education. It is for compliant subjects.
That's one theory, you conspiracy theorist.
Well, actually, it comes from the mouth of the founders who created the system.
Not a reliable
Horace
source.
Mann.
Since we've gone totally sideways, to correct the record, public education in Oklahoma alone receives $2.5 billion in government-subsidized budget every 365 days, Deborah. Can you not teach the children for $5 billion? My God, it's insane.
That's what Finland spends. It's amazing. They're #1 in the world, but they do things a lot differently. They don't have homework. They pay their teachers more, treat them like professionals. They
spend
have
less time at
4-day school week.
Right, and
spend less time per day.
2 hours in the day.
And there is much more recess. Well, I don't know why we can't just do that. But whatever. What do I know?
The thing that is wrong with her exercise that it wants the parents to learn how to do relative budgeting is that it teaches and indicates a willingness to work to ask for more money rather than work with limited resources. They're not teaching limited resources.
The parents don't understand the exercise because they don't have a PhD in plunder like Dr. Gist.
There you go. So if we're going to reduce the class sizes, which seems to be one of the questions, and I really don't know if the class sizes have increased.
That is the Marxist problem that she's
but
working on.
But if you want to reduce the class sizes, you could start by eliminating the truancy laws and the mandatory public school laws. And then you would drop a lot of people that are going to school because they have to instead of because they want to. I think that we don't need certifications for teachers between kindergarten and about 4th grade. After 5th and 6th grade, you can start worrying about, certified, but 6 plus 6 is always 12, 2 plus 2, and general stuff can be taught by outstanding parents of the community. There's no reason to pay for a certified teacher between kindergarten and 4th grade.
What I don't understand is how TPS, Tulsa Public Schools, is producing 18-year-olds that don't know how to read.
Furthermore, where is it? We have a 435 to 1 counselor to student ratio.
Okay.
435 to 1.
I guess it could be 435,000.
The American School Counselor Association recommends a 250 to 1. So, Deborah, there's something you could cut.
Yeah, we need
Well,
more
is it
administration.
435 students to one counselor, or is it-
Counselors to student, is that
We
not
have-
correct?
Are we talking about attorneys or?
Well, given what
Students-
they've said, given what they've got printed there, yeah, 435 counselors per student. That
sounds about right.
Well, I got a question.
that's
What
gotta
does the
count a lot of
counsel?
counselors.
What does the counselor teach?
Do we still have sound there, guys?
I don't know.
Testing, guys. Let us give us a comment if we don't have sound. Can you read this? I just got an icon on the screen.
I don't
Says
see
headphones.
anything. I don't see
Okay.
anything.
Just let us know. Comment if you can hear us.
If you can't
Continue.
hear us,
So also there is an 82.6% graduation rate, which means
Right.
all this money we're spending and they're getting a low B. I mean, they can't even graduate.
Oh, no, it's much lower than that. They lowered the standards to be able to get the rates up with Common Core. Now remember, we still have Common Core. All they did was change the name of so much of Common Core. It's still create the test, teach to the test. It is
Right.
not have the curriculum, have the subject that needs to be taught, figure out what needs to be taught, and then create the test to gauge how much
Yeah, we got sound.
how much you know. It's create the test, and then from that you then create the curriculum, and you force teachers to teach to the test.
Right.
And the entire point of doing that is because it's very easy to just write a simple test and then force the curriculum to match. And by asking the questions in a certain way, you get in your gay agenda, you get your LGBTQ and all of those folks, and you get in all of your weird different agendas, your socialism and your tyrannies, and all of that is worked in because you just create the test first.
For the amount of money we're spending on government schools, for them to only be able to graduate 82% is pretty weak.
Well, and we have in some places like Oklahoma City, the numbers are at about 11% who can read at grade level.
What you'll find out is if you knock off those mandatory truancy laws, your graduation rate will go up, because those people who are dropping out are people who do not want to be in your indoctrination camp.
That's true.
Clearly, go ahead.
Well, I'm sure, Oldham, that 11% that can read at grade level reference. You mean
That's at eighth grade.
Okay, 8th grade. Is that in Oklahoma City?
In Oklahoma City,
In
I just saw
Oklahoma
the number.
Well,
it was at 11%. It was
I'm-
slightly higher than the 9% in Detroit.
Well, I'm sure that means that really that just 89% read above grade level, and only 11%.
And they're carrying the rest of them like
Right, so that's what it is. At 11% that can't, get
So-
39 or the stuff there.
So, and I'm going to beat this one to death for a while. Yeah, clearly there are 435 students to one counselor.
Right.
Now, this begs the question: why in the world do we have a counselor at the school when we are strapped for cash at the school? Wouldn't that be an area we could cut, Deborah? Doctor, couldn't we cut the counselors? Because
I don't
really,
think she watches this show.
education. Oh, I'm sure she's going to call me back. But the fact
The
is,
NFL, they call all the time. Deborah's not going to call.
David called out Socrates the other day. I could say something. The fact is, if we're struggling, like she has said a couple of years ago, we're struggling to keep the lights on and the doors open. If you're really that broke, you'll have to get rid of some counselors, because the key to
Don't do it,
education
Deborah. Don't do
is
it.
educating, and then later, and now what they say.
Except remember that they're indoctrination centers, and they need that kind of personnel to ingrain all this indoctrination.
When
into
you
these
traumatize the
kids.
children with your indoctrination, you're going to need a counselor.
Now remember, we have indoctrination centers from 3 to 20 something, and they're trying to get it through about 25, 26 with college,
Right?
and then we have the prisons, which are doing the exact same thing, and all they are is re-education camps,
Right?
for the most part. And
Criminal university. It's where you go in for something relatively minor or moderate. And you
or
come out
not, or just a
serial
political
murderer.
crime, not even a crime that you haven't even harmed anybody. You just had something
Well,
in your
it's a
pocket,
serious
a baggie
problem.
that you're not supposed to have.
Right.
Society has to answer for this.
Or you
I
flash
mean,
your boobs.
Do we want these people to go into a prison and then come out a non-capable, non-productive member of society because now they have a felony, a non-violent felony? So the only line of work available to them is a line of increasingly violent crime.
Yeah,
Right.
a couple other things. This is all from the Oklahoma Public School Fast Facts. You can find it online. But check out, I want to come back eventually to, you know what an IEP is?
Yeah.
The Individual Education Program. Now, the government was designed to promote the what? General welfare?
No, individual education
No.
plans.
Here it is, the outline the special education program for a student with a disability.
It all makes
Clearly,
sense
these
now.
the children with disabilities that need an IEP, an individual education program, would be best served by a charter school like Epic, where they could stay at home, where they're not forced to go to
Hey,
school.
you don't want the OSBI to start investigating you. Don't
Once
say anything
again,
like that.
well, my rating, according to you, has gone
That
straight
would be
to.
DHS. Probably not OSBI.
It's the OSBI that's been
The
investigating.
fact is, again,
Epic. Yeah.
rid yourself of these truancy laws, these mandatory truancy laws, and you won't have a problem with a lot of these kids that show up with disabilities
Well,
when they don't really want
These
to.
individualized
again.
education plans make a lot of sense now. Now I know why all the students aren't graduating learning reading and math. Some of them need to learn about LGBTQ, and some of them need to learn about gender studies. And I see that not universally we teach math and reading.
Right.
So get a load of these numbers. No, we're not done, Deborah. We're still going. The Tulsa
That's right, Debbie. You
Comprehensive.
sit down.
The Tulsa Public Schools Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017, and this is the earliest we have, okay, or the most current we have. 2016 general fund revenue totaled $304.8 million. Okay, right now there's 35,392 students. Wow, that's a lot of money for those students. The primary funding source was the state of Oklahoma, with state revenue comprising 53% of the total, or $160.6 million. Federal program revenue, $31.3 million, representing 10% of the total. Local, intermediate, and other revenue sources represented 37% of the total revenue collections, or $112.9 million. Of that amount, ad valorem tax revenue, $85.5. Ad valorem tax revenue accounts for 90% of the building fund revenue and total $12.2 million. The Child Nutrition Fund collects 70% of fund revenues from the Federal Nutrition Program administered through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the federal free and reduced price lunch program was 86%.
You can thank Mo for that.
Of
Michelle
lunches
Obama.
served by the
Thanks,
district.
Mo.
For 15 years, I've gotten nothing but denials for free lunch programs that I never filled out the paperwork for. Somebody kept signing my name, and then I would get the rejection slip. The schools get their money through the lunch program according to pieces of papers submitted, not lunches served. You want to save some money, and the lunch program is the first place to start. Start spending money on lunches served instead of pieces of paper sent in for lunches requested.
That
Well,
makes sense, Tom.
remember this. Every federal spending program, every federal charity program like food stamps, reduced price lunches, the federal school lunch program, etc., are all illegal. There's nothing constitutional that allows them to be administering
I don't think we should call them
those
charity
programs.
then. I think we should call them coercive programs.
Well, they are coercive because they're taxed.
It's not charity by definition. It's not
But
voluntary.
it's charity because the people receiving it are gaining
Compulsory
money.
charity, okay.
But it's
Why don't
compulsory
you say
charity.
eleemosynary?
And, well, you
Why
want to call it
would you
eleemosynary.
not
We're going to have
say
that
it?
discussion off camera one of these days.
Gosh.
But the thing is that eleemosynary doesn't have the coercion aspect to it, and that will,
to it when you say it with your vocal
well,
inflection.
it is coerced eleemosynary spending. That is very true. That is very true.
Yeah.
But the point is that they don't have the right to, even without the coerced taxation aspect, they don't have the authority to run the program. Because even if they had the money somehow, they can't run the program because it's not in the Constitution. The 10th Amendment says that if it's not directly enumerated in the Constitution, they can't do it. And because those powers are reserved to the states and the people.
Right.
But then it's doubled down by the fact that it's coercive taxation. Every parent who is applying for this reduced tax is receiving, or this reduced price lunch,
right,
is gaining money to pay for these things. So it's like money handed them, they hand it back to the school. It's just unseen because it doesn't go that way. But they are receiving.
The Mitt Romney 47% comment.
They are receiving.
This is longer.
They're receiving.
What?
Okay, I'm lost because I don't understand it.
That's good.
But they are receiving stolen goods and spending those stolen
Back
goods
in
from
2012,
us.
Romney said that 47% of the electorate, he had no chance of receiving their vote because they were on the dole from the federal government.
Well, and he was very right. The problem is, it's even worse than 47% because the other 53% are pretty much also on the dole in one way or another.
Well, my own personal experience is they have fraudulently asked in my name for a free lunch.
Somebody has.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, every year every time we've been in public schools, we get this, and private schools, they give us the free lunch thing has been denied. I never asked for the free lunch.
You steal one free PB&J from us and you get the road.
Wow. Also, when they say free or reduced lunch, are you really telling me you got a kid that's standing there like, Jimmy, you're so hard up, we're going to give you a free lunch, but Tommy, you're going to get only half price. Are you kidding me? What's the difference in free and reduced?
The amount of money the
Give
parents
me a
earn.
break.
The amount of money they think
if
the
they're
parents
low
can
enough
afford.
to get a reduced rate, give them the free lunch. It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
What
Lunch
a
is kind of
joke.
expensive.
Is there any difference between rape and incest?
Yes, not all incest, or not all rape is incest.
Not all incest is necessarily rape. It could be consensual. It's still deranged.
Okay,
You're still
then-
a degenerate.
Then why would we offer a exception for incest and rape? Because
You talking about
consensual
for
incest
abortion?
isn't rape.
Right.
Because people are perverse. If they're wanting to murder their kids and just have exemptions to something that says you can't, then they're going to come up with stuff like that.
It's funny how
Some people think that abortion's fun. I mean,
it's amazing
they're called
how
liberals. So.
public school takes you to stuff like that. But just to close out, we have two more things to flog this dead deal with. Oklahoma, because I have offered some really good suggestions to cut the money here. Reduce class sizes by eliminating truancy law. No certified teachers for pre-K, K, and through fourth
They're
grade.
already doing that in some places.
So here's a good one.
Stop wasting money.
There's a way, there's a ton of ways
that can't be felt by the entire of the system.
Sell the leftover boxes of Kleenexes that are in all the teachers' closets.
Some of that reduced food, sell.
So I can fix their $22 million problem with a $26 million fix. Oklahoma Public Schools from fiscal year 2016 to fiscal year 2017, teachers, certified and support personnel received $26 million more for flexible benefit allowance. That's a 6.0619% increase in benefits. That's you can find that Docs, Google on a budget in the public. So why don't you just reinstate those dollars back to the fiscal year 16 or 15? There's $26 million available in flexible benefit allowance, and that leaves you a couple $1 million to play with.
Okay.
Except the teachers will flip.
Now we fixed TPS.
I think
What
I'm
else
done
is
with
going
that.
on this week?
You tell me, Jimmy.
I don't know.
What do you
This
got?
stack of papers is slam.
Somebody have a Google thing on me? Anybody have a Google story?
Google?
Or do you want to go straight to the boobs? What about that White Oak
Yeah,
case?
what about the boobs?
The boobs is a forever story.
We'll get to we'll get to that one a little bit later in the show. But let's talk about the First Amendment violators
This
out
thing
there.
here.
Yeah, with the that is now somehow racist.
Yeah.
Where do you come up with that?
Made you look,
it's
White power.
Dang it.
So right there.
Right back at you.
And that somehow the thought police are going to tell us that we can't do it.
Yes.
Maybe it may come down to being a hate crime, and that because that's where they all want to go with this stuff, that the hate crimes, this illegal federal criminalization that the feds again don't have any authority to write law about.
Right.
They control culture. Who is it? One of these talk radio guys always says politics is downstream from culture. It's Rush. Rush is my favorite guy ever on the radio. I mean, I don't know. Shapiro, kneel down. Pat Campbell, you're way better than we deserve for Tulsa. I mean, you're national level talent, but I mean, Limbaugh's the guy, okay? Levin is trash compared to Limbaugh, and I think, he's just brilliant, and he's got the right analysis. And here's the deal. They've controlled the culture for so long. I mean, Hollywood, it's just all these leftist pedos and deviants and perverts, and they've been running. I mean, look, Roman, and it's right out there. It was Quentin Tarantino, degenerate, has all of these movies, which, I'm going to admit I like some of them, okay? He's got some pretty good movies, are pretty bad.
Who doesn't like a couple of degenerate movies?
But gosh darn it, it goes back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where you got the Charles Manson murders. Well, look, it's Roman Polanski's, I think, girlfriend or wife. But look, this guy is in exile because he was raping 12 and 13-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And this was commonplace 60 years ago in Hollywood. You can't turn around with a Weinstein or a Louis C.K. or whoever that is committing these crimes against people. And so you look at them, and you look at the Clintons, you look at these Democrats, and you look at what the media has swept under the rug. With these sex trafficking instances, it has almost always affected Democratic politicians, not always, most of the time. And so it just goes back to them controlling the culture. And the culture is one of outrage, where the more offended you get, the more currency you have. The more you are signaling your virtue.
You mean like Greta?
Of leftism. Like,
yeah.
You have stolen my child and fly me around in private jets. Yeah, okay, great. She's just going to play with Roblox anyway. So, but the point is this. They've controlled the debate for so long. They've controlled the culture for so long. You've got 90% plus academics identifying as non-Republican. There are many departments at many universities where there's not a single conservative. There are many editors at most newspapers. Most newspaper editorial boards don't have a single conservative.
Right.
Your K12 educators, okay? Usually they're not conservative, over 90%. So we've got all these pillars of society. You've got the media. They're the PR branch of the Democratic Party, the leftist forces. You've got education. They're the propaganda. They're the indoctrination wing of the Democratic Party. And then you've got academia, and it's much the same. And so this is how they've done it. They just control the conversation. They have controlled the currency of society, and that currency is outrage. How offended can you be, and what kind of victim are you? And they all come into this confluence of ridiculous things. And they're eating themselves now, but it doesn't matter because we've identified on this show, they don't use logic or reason. They can have their cake and eat it too. You're a big misogynist, you're a big sexist, however, there's no such thing as sex.
Right.
They believe both at the same time. It doesn't matter. It's all about feelings. Right. And so we attempt to reason with them, but it's really a fool's errand.
Yeah, I think it was Rush I heard say that it is the aggressor who defines the rules of the debate. They will lower it. They lower the level. This is where we've gotten to with this, what I call reaction shaming. What they do is the reason they have so much power is they do something below the standard of common decency, and then when there is a reaction, they say, "Aha, you're judgmental." And then, so they immediately twist it back.
Well, they do that, but they control the narrative, and people on our side, or the constitutional side is what I'm going to say, fall into the trap. They don't call them out for what they are. Like the people who are calling them the anarchists, I no longer call them anarchists. I call them lawless. Right. Because they're not anarchists. They actually want no rules. And that's what we're going to talk about here in a bit with the boobs. You've got people who are making up terms, redefining things, and nobody's calling them out. Beto isn't being called out by the media for wanting to take your guns. Hell yeah, we're going to take your guns. The point is that is an act of war, and that leads into another thing that we should probably bring up because it's caught fire just in the last day or so. This pastor who said the same thing that I've been saying for a few years is that he said that we're about to be in a civil war if these kinds of things happen.
Right.
I have said we have been in a civil war.
Culture war. Yeah?
No. It is shooting. It is shooting. People are being harmed physically. We have mandated vaccines where people are being shot up. We have cops who are shooting people and arresting them and putting them in prison for doing nothing but not going along with the political program that has been mandated to us. So the thing is, we have been in this civil war for a long time, and people want to maintain their head in the sand kind of an attitude, and sadly it's people who are running the very rights organizations who are falling into this trap, and they're perpetuating it and allowing the discussion to continue.
Wall to wall that a Bernie supporter shoots up a congressional baseball game comprised entirely of Republicans. Can you imagine what the reaction would have been if some guy with a Gadsden flag got an AR-15 and shot up a Democratic and put in critical condition a Democratic legislator?
But
we wouldn't hear the end of it. We know this because they control the media. How do you know they control the media? Well, first of all, they tell us that 93% of them identify as non-Republican, all journalists. So they told us. But beyond that, you've got the president being investigated and even being impeached for non-crimes ongoing 2 years now. Non-crimes. For talking about investigating the literal crimes of the opposition. When their crimes don't even make it past a day in the news. You've got these Antifa guys shooting cops, shooting civilians, killing people, putting people in comas for words. For words. And so, yes, there is violence going on right now. I think we can avert the greater violence by going to constitutional principles and espousing them. And joining with people on the other side, which there are some that say, hey, there should be rules. They say, look, I will reach across the aisle and shake anyone's hand that says no one is above the law. Great. And that's why I and many others, including the president himself, have welcomed the investigation of the Mueller report. He said, look, you'll find nothing. I really do, even though they illegally conducted that investigation. That's another story. And they went hunting for all kinds of stuff, tax evasion stuff that had nothing to do with the scope of the investigation, which is incredibly hypocritical as a side note when Tim Geithner and Al Sharpton and all kinds of famous Democrats that have held executive positions within the Obama administration and other Democratic administrations had not paid their taxes to the tunes of millions or tens of millions of dollars. That aside, we can shake hands and say, yeah, no one's above the law. Let's have a standard, let's have an egalitarian, you guys love that stuff, egalitarian society where everybody abides by the same rules and they're equal under the law. How about that? And let's make it fair. Let's give everyone their own fair share of the legal process.
And we mean equal under the law, not equal outcomes from the law.
Well, you have to know what words mean, so I'm glad that you said that. You might have
well, it's important.
Some leftists there.
Well, you know what? No,
I didn't say what you felt. I said what those words meant.
Well, but by the same token, the people who are watching our show need to realize these words so that they can help educate their neighbors. Because this is only going to change.
Our viewers already know. You got the smartest viewers out there, all 7 of them.
That is true.
We
do have the smartest bunch.
Foundation. When I watch later, it's 8.
But the hope is that this is going to get to people who aren't, the first night viewers. That it's going to get to people who are learning this stuff for the first time. I talk about these things every day, all day, to everybody I come in contact with. online or off.
It's true. His
And
coworkers asked him to stop. He's not going to stop, guys. Chad, he's not going to stop. Robert,
all you have to do is get behind it and make it free again, and I will be happy to be quiet because I have much more things to do.
Let's tune everybody back in. Hey, this is Tom McKay here, your host with 3D Politics. I got 2 out of the 3 Davids, David Oldham and David D'Ambroso, here with me at the table. David Van is on exciting assignment out there, picking up great stories. I'm sure.
Picking up great stories, great
He promised a big one for next week.
Are we allowed to talk about a story or no? That's
No.
Okay, all right.
So if you're
in for a treat.
If you're joining us right now, just lay down on your table and look at us sideways.
2D Politics. We're Batman and Robin. We're climbing. You know? Turn your phone sideways.
We could.
Turn your TV sideways.
You know, some guy tried to. You want to move to the boobs yet?
Why not? I mean,
Are you ready
everybody's
for the
just
moves?
been everybody's just
15
chafing
minutes.
for it.
Oh well, I guess it's about time.
Minutes. So
you know how they can occupy a guy's mind.
Our notes were to start 45 minutes ago on this. What's happened?
Those boobs are buy one, see one free.
Who said it? I gotta preempt this. I mean, guys, come on. You know, you're only gonna see the breasts you don't want to see. The vast majority of the folks
Wait,
are
you're
going
only going to see the breasts you don't want to
Right.
see.
That's what's gonna happen.
That's right.
I mean, you know, you're just gonna look away in horror. There's gonna be no good breasts out there. They're gonna be disgusting.
I love the picture of the guy with the bullhorn out there protesting the breasts, facing all the women, you know, right out of
screaming at breasts with a bullhorn.
down at the gathering place the other day.
We know the people that are going to be exhibitionists. They're going to be leftists. We know leftist women are empirically less attractive than conservative women, and it is like it is the worst looking people that are exhibitionists.
One of the things that I got into a little debate with a gal named April on a Facebook spat.
A guy?
A gal named April.
Okay.
Gal.
And a gal, sorry.
Well, gender's a construct anyway. Sure.
So it dawned on me, though, that they're and you guys will say, well, of course, Tom, you're stupid and slow. But liberal is
not a Dave.
Liberal is the opposite of progressive.
Yeah.
And they use liberal progressive techniques like push-pull, aggressive, passive. And so I was explaining to the gal, you shouldn't, as a liberal, you shouldn't be so progressive. You should respect the indigenous customs and mores of the local community. That is, we have a standard in Tulsa where typically the ladies cover themselves modestly. Now, April's supporting the gals want to take off their shirt, and I really think it's obscene to see your back fat.
Well, let's stop and clue everybody in, just in case they haven't heard the news. So what happened was the 10th Circuit back in February heard a case and ruled it was the case entitled "Free the Nipples versus Fort Collins."
I didn't know that.
And that is the name of the case. I don't have the number off the top of my head.
You don't even need it.
But the point is that they wrote their decision back in February, and it just was introduced, and the city of Fort Collins decided not to pursue it to the Supreme Court. What it said in general was that the breasts of men and women are basically the same. Therefore, it is, because they are the same, it is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to then discriminate against women. And the Fort Collins, the specific Fort Collins statute or code said that women must be covered from the areola down. So
that is amazing that they ruled on that argumentation, because I can think of at least 5 other argumentations that would have been better for the same effect and more logical than male and female mammaries are the same. They are scientifically and biologically not. Try feeding an infant with a male nipple.
Well, and you know, getting quite the arousal out of the male breast as the female. I don't know. I mean, I'm not,
It's
I'm
really
not a
not-
female,
it's
and I'm
really
not
not
gay,
about- oh
so...
my God.
It's not really about whether they are the same or not. It's about what are existential community standards. We start at a place. It's not like we're at a blank slate here where we don't know. Should women walk around with their breasts or not? I don't know. Let's have a vote. We already live in a world where for 200 years, the women are modest about their breasts. Now, there's a political event. They purposefully came out to raise awareness about their tits. My political views, says April, my political views have nothing to do with what I want to wear or not want to wear, which is total bullcrap. The only reason I met her on Facebook to argue was because she was pushing her political views about what she thinks should be legal to wear or not wear. And this is the deception of the left. They pretend like they just want to walk around and take my shirt off. And when she lifts her shirt and shows me her ugly back fat and I respond, she says, shame on your response. It's called reaction shaming, and it's a real thing.
And probably
Well,
her
that's
ugly
very true.
breasts. But I want to go on a brief aside. You know, it's interesting the conflation between liberal and progressive. At one time, liberals were progressive many, many years ago. But once liberals had pushed for progressive reforms that freed society, freed speech, freed thought, classical liberals like Enlightenment thinkers,
Right.
okay, once they did that, it had a parabolic effect where progressivism was liberal. But since the classical liberals won their battles and we have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights, now to be progressive is to restrict those rights. So to be progressive is now no longer liberal.
Right. And progressives are, by definition, liars. You cannot make a final agreement with a progressive because it's the end of the line for you and the beginning of the day for them. They just started on their
Well,
progressive
and
thing.
society inexorably moves left for a number of reasons. The personality set of a conservative to be more open-minded, more empathetic. You know, a lot of research conducted by Jonathan Haidt, a liberal, a modern-day progressive, to the left of Bernie Sanders, self-avowed, okay? His research indicates that leftists have far less empathy than conservatives. So what does that mean? When they ask conservatives and leftists to define the beliefs of the other side, what they find is that leftists are far more likely to attribute malice to belief than conservatives are, to attribute malice to leftists. They're far more likely to absolutely get the beliefs wrong, to absolutely misunderstand them, and that conservatives generally understand it. Both sides exaggerate the views of the other side to some extent.
Right.
But the left exaggerates more, assigns moral impurity more to the other side than conservatives typically just think, liberals are a little bit mixed up or they come at it from a different approach. So what does this create? It creates a situation where, you know, and also Jonathan and I discovered that conservatives are more polite. We want to avoid conflict more, give people the benefit of the doubt, and we understand empathetically where liberals are coming from. They don't. So they feel like they've got a moral crusade. They are on a literal crusade and you're evil. Everyone that disagrees with them is literally Hitler. This is why you see this accusation levied so often. They actually do believe it.
Sure.
And independent-minded
Sure they do.
people and conservatives find it absurd. It is. Leftists don't. They think nothing of it. And why do we not call leftists Stalin more, or accurately
I
Hitler?
try to every chance I get.
I mean, Hitler is a leftist. I mean, he's a National Socialist. He's got a socialist. So we don't. And so it creates a situation where we find their position somewhat reasonable, somewhere within the realm of reason, even though we disagree with them. Whereas the left does not find our positions within the realm of reason.
Well, we can-
and so we always move left. They can always move us. Like you're
Right.
saying, the progressive. They're saying, well, just this one thing. Have you considered how they feel about this? Can you make them feel better?
Well, the thing is that
we move left.
we go to feelings on that one because lawfully we're not allowed to go there.
Right.
Because again, when you go to these leftist positions, they are unconstitutional at their core. And that's because every single one of them requires a subjection of your rights, a selling away of your rights to be in subjection to
And
their desires.
move away from the literal strict constructionalist interpretation, the literal interpretation of the Constitution.
Sure. I wanted to talk about the unconstitutional act that was this particular a ruling by the 10th Circuit.
Okay.
Okay. Now the problem is that it is a right to be nude. It is not a right to be nude in public because that affects others. And that right or that privilege can be given or taken by the populace of a particular area. The problem with the 10th Circuit is that they do not allow the local communities to decide what kind of a community they will be.
It's a 10th Amendment violation.
So it's a 10th Amendment violation for them to even get into it. And it comes from them wanting to insert themselves into things that are not their
You mean like legislation, like writing laws?
Well, yeah, like
They
laws
basically
that they're
wrote a
not
law.
allowed to, they're not allowed to.
Yeah, they did
to
in
write.
California, Proposition 8. You know, the people of California voted no gay marriage. A judge came in, wrote a law, essentially, from the bench. As a judge in the judiciary, he wrote a law and said, nope, don't care what you guys said.
Well, and
we have gay marriage. So
and we've talked about it here. We've talked about it here with the actions of our attorney general, with the opioid
God
drug
bless him.
cases and things like that.
Right.
So this is throughout, especially within the legal system. This is the way they behave.
We got to put these judges on notice. You know, we're coming for you legally within the confines of the law. We are coming for you. You think that you can sit here and act as two branches, act lawlessly and unconstitutionally, suspend the Constitution at your whim, and face no reprisal? That's not true. And the winds are changing.
Coming and realize that these judges, though they serve a term, some for life. Remember, the Constitution in the Article 3 says that they are permitted to serve during a term of good behavior.
That's right.
And that is not, and it might be Article 6, but anyway, they are not in good behavior. In this particular case, it's 2 versus 1. One got it right. The other two are not in good behavior.
Violating their oath of office, violating separation of powers. That's not good behavior.
So we need to raise awareness of name recognition of these judges so everybody can know which ones are doing well and which ones
I'm working on something, guys.
Now,
I'm
mind
ready
you,
to officially announce it. We're going to make all of these judges famous. Make them well known to the public and their unconstitutional illegal acts well known.
Well, and the
That
good
is
ones
awesome.
that are doing well too. We need to know that.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, and this goes even further, because the state wants to dictate whether a community could go topless or not,
Right.
and the state wants to dictate it when it's a community issue. So you take it down to the community, and the community can decide. Okay, no, we're not going to have topless all year long, but we're going to have a festival. We're going to invite everybody in. We're going to celebrate it for one weekend a year or something like that, or a week, and they can do that.
Yeah,
That
Canadian
is,
weekend.
That is our right.
You don't have to bathe or shave, or you can be naked.
But yeah, it comes down to public opinion of the local standard.
Right. And the thing is that they can't be dictated from higher up, which is where everybody who's a real activist who doesn't ever want to see back fat or boobs will go, because the higher you go, the more people you affect and the wider the area
It's
you
wonderful, that solution, the constitutional solution, because if you're one of these discussing exhibitionists and you want to be in a discussing exhibitionist community, you can be. But if you're a normal person, you can just be normal.
And
isn't that wonderful?
And here's the problem: is that we have, and there's was something that is now. I read an article from Salt Lake City. There was an escort who flashed her boobs, and so therefore she was brought up on charges, and her lawyer thinks that he can get her off from the charges at this point. And the reasons, or the things was that the state of Utah does not allow full nudity in a private establishment. So they have violated the private ownership rights, the private property rights of somebody who wants to have a gentleman's club and have it the way he wants to have it.
Right.
So long as nobody is harmed, the state does not have a legitimate concern there that they can make a law, a dictatorial law.
It's human nature, and it's the law of the universe, of entropy, where we have this beautiful governing document that is almost transcendent. It's almost religious how well it was constructed and how brilliantly conceived. But now for over 240 something years, we have been collectively ignoring it. We have had people come in by fiat and change it.
Children to the public schools
and every
where
branch.
they teach them about it.
And we had, I was taught in my indoctrination mill, K12, where some people graduate and don't know how to read, but they sure as heck do know about LGBT story time,
Right.
and they know about, genders. I was taught that the Constitution was a living, breathing document. Well, doesn't that sound amazing? Well, what are you talking about? Is this religious? Yeah, it's kind of an article of religious faith for the left. It's like some kind of transubstantiation thing. It's a magic piece of paper that means whatever they want it to mean, is what they're saying.
Right.
Living, breathing is
arbitrary
that's what they mean
enforcement
by
of
it.
the law.
Well, no, it's not living or breathing. It's a piece of paper, and it died when they killed the tree the parchment was written on.
Well, that's
Literally.
true, but it is living and breathing in the sense that it can
It's
apply,
modular.
Well, that it can apply.
It has
toward-
a methodology for
Sure.
which it can be
Go.
modified, which is strict.
And we're
Well,
going to
yes.
talk about Article 5 in an upcoming show. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
but the thing it's kind of like the Bible is living and breathing, in part because it applies the way it's written to things today, and people say, "Oh, nothing's the same today as ever was," and so therefore it can't mean what it says. And it's like, no, it does, and it does apply in these these supposedly new circumstances, and it applies the same way as it would have when we didn't have the internet and airplanes and things
And if
like
you get
that.
enough people
And
together, you can
and the
add
Constitution
the
the same way.
Joseph Smith module to the Bible.
It's a cause and
Well-
effect is the reality we live in, and the effect is never changing. The causes change all the time, but the effect is never ending. There is no new effect under the sun. There's plenty of new causes, but you burn your hand on a caveman's fire, or you burn your hand on a futuristic laser. The effect is the same. You burn your hand. The cause is different. Causes change. Causes change all the time.
And
The
speaking of
effects
nothing
never
new
change.
under the sun and biblical references, today is the New Year and the only calendar in the Bible. And so, Happy New Year to people that celebrate Feast of Trumpets or the Jewish phrase that I can't pronounce. But something really interesting that I'd heard recently and researched this. It's kind of amazing. Old Sam Clemens, Mark Twain, in 1867 visited Jerusalem. And he wrote about how it was desolate and you couldn't find 10 people and 10 miles in the area, how it was a barren wasteland. And this is an interesting advent because in the Bible there's a prophecy, Google it, that a stranger from a faraway place would declare then the thriving Israel a desolate and barren place.
Interesting.
Well, it's amazing. 50 years from that, or the Jubilee concept that is celebrated oftentimes on this day, was 1917, and that's when, I didn't know this, I knew about Balfour's, but that's when the Balfour's Declaration was signed, which allowed return to that territory, then territory of Palestine, for many Jews. 50 years from then, in 1917, 1967, is whenever, and a lot of people didn't know this, when the modern state of Israel came about in 1948, it didn't include Jerusalem. Well, in 1967, after Israel's Arab neighbors attacked them,
Right.
they took control of Jerusalem from the Arabs in a Jubilee year. And the Jubilee is the restoration principle in the Bible, where if you lost something, ceremonial lands held by your family, whatever, something, you got it back.
Released your slaves.
Something like, and it actually is an answer to debt cycles and market crashes, but that's separate. You notice they're cyclical in 7 to 8 year cycles. And then, so 1967, where is a 50-year point from 1967? You end up in 2017, where our current president, Trump, declared Jerusalem the only capital of Israel, and exclusively the capital, which in a way is an international jubilee. So they got it in the international eye, Israel, their capital back. Very, very.
I didn't realize that
stuff.
happened in a Jubilee year.
Yeah.
You're not a numerologist, are you, Dave?
No, I found out about this recently.
It's part of their
Yes,
of the
I-
Jewish calendar. So
Well, I want to get a grip on this boob story and get an intense look at it.
More puns.
Just want to finish
More
off.
of a
You want to fill it out?
I just want to milk this boob story for all it's worth. The thing is that people need to know at the local level, the way that this is literally the topless skate is political agitation. It's not just people saying, oh, it should be that, so this one gal says, this wonderful April gal, she says that showing breast is not lowering the standard. Men have been doing it for years. It is, though, and my point was to her that she's lowering or offending the standards that exist today in the local community.
Maybe dudes should put on their shirts too.
She said, I agree with that. If you are a man and you have man boobs and back fat, put on a shirt.
Put on a shirt,
I
man.
don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't wear a muscle shirt for a reason. So she says it is, though, embracing the new standard and enlightening the community to that standard. Well, there it is.
Cool.
She told me before that her political views didn't matter, but now, later in the thread, she's enlightening the community. So I told her, you, ma'am, are deceitful. Your politics clearly have everything to do with this engagement. You claim my political views have nothing to do with what I want to wear, and that is bullcrap. You now admit it's all about enlightening the community, and then they reaction shame. And that is what the whole Topless thing was about, was to create an event where they provoke a response so they can say, you don't get to have that response.
And remember, she had to enlighten you, because, and we never talk to liberals like this, do we?
No.
Let us proselytize you or whatever. They
educate you.
They want to enlighten, because to them, going back to the empirical research conducted by leftists, they cannot empathize. They simply feel that your views are ignorant, unenlightened, evil, morally depraved.
Right.
And so she is proselytizing to you her religion of secular humanism, of leftism, because you're an unwashed heathen.
And she's free to have her reaction to the existential community standards, but I'm not free to have my reaction. She's the arbiter of my life.
And that is the key thing. If you notice,
Let's go.
We're happy to let liberals have their views.
Right.
The vast majority of us, everyone at this table, we're happy to let them have their views. No problem. We never say you don't have a right to that opinion. Never. But what does the left say all the time? You do not have a right to that opinion.
Right.
We are living. We're okay that they are not okay with us having our opinions. They feel like we should be okay and even embrace their opinions, but they don't feel they should extend the same courtesy to us.
Yeah, that's called tolerance.
So you can see how society has moved this far leftward inexorably for over 120 years.
Yeah, and proof of the fact that it is duplicitous and that they are trying to get at men is the fact that they are now the other part of the ruling said that you can, because women are bearing their chests in public, they can be filmed, but the filmer can be held responsible for child pornography if he is filming an underage girl. How in public are you to know if you're just panning the crowd and there's all these women topless?
You're bird watching.
How do
and there happen to be people coming to the frame, and now, oh my god!
Exactly. You have created a situation that is untenable, and it is automatically going to
and they don't care, do they?
All sorts of criminals.
The left and these unaccountable bureaucrats, these unelected officials, many unelected judges, many of these criminal judges, legislating from the bench, acting unconstitutionally. They don't even care. They never have to face the consequences, intended or otherwise, that they cause their neck. Never. But what's funny is they hold us to the double standard. Well, if there's any potentiality of potential harm in anything that we suggest or any current policy that we support, we must be held to account. Well, what if the abortion, you prevent someone from getting an abortion, and 32 years down the road there's some complication because of it? Aren't you responsible for that? And all conservatives walk into it typically and say, yes, we're responsible. We'll hold that heavy weight of that ridiculous scenario that happens 0.0001% of the time, or has never happened, like on that net neutrality thing.
Right.
Oh, they're going to throttle your internet. Well, internet's 35% faster than it's ever been here in the United States, years after net neutrality is supposed to end our internet freedom and throw us these blah, blah, blah. They never have to stand account for the concrete harms they cause. You put 60 million humans in the ground through murder via abortion. But we are to be responsible as conservatives for hypothetical deaths that haven't even happened based upon straw man arguments of stuff we're not even suggesting, when we just stand for the civil rights that exist, the egalitarian rights that exist of all people, born or unborn.
Right. And it's not just the unborn, but they're putting people in the ground who are full-grown adults. Look at the red flag laws. That man in Maryland.
Look at every implementation of socialism.
Yes.
How many people starved to death in Venezuela, Ukraine, the breadbasket of Europe?
I'm talking
only
about
socialism.
Here. Look, let's even focus here. We have the same thing going on here, and it's happening all around us. You have your neighbors. We are individually participating in so many of these things because we're not calling them out. We're not holding them responsible. We're not voting them out.
And that's got to end.
We're not taking torches and pitchforks and demanding that these people be held accountable.
I don't know about torches and pitchforks, but we need to be less concerned about feelings. We need to be less concerned about empathizing with stepping on the little
We need to take a day off and go march on the Capitol.
sensitive toe bones of the left when they're literally causing the murder of millions and millions of people and lowering the standard of, here's my you want to know my concern?
Yes,
We're actual
I do.
humanitarians as conservatives. You end the golden goose human trust that exists here in the free society of American culture, and you kill inadvertently or advertently tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people in the third world. Who will develop the MRI if not us? Right. Who will develop the satellite technology that betters the lives and saves the lives and allows people to track down others in remote areas and give emergency medical care to them, if not us? It is us doing it. And as soon as you make us like the rest of the world, we will become less innovative, less economically sound, we'll be less able to pull others in the world out of their economic rut. And where will everybody in the third world immigrate to? If we're just like those places that are so terrible, people can't live there.
But
and they
if
die
we're
of
like
diseases
that,
that were eliminated 200 years ago.
Then we're not primed for the one world government and the whole European,
socialist
American,
globalist
UN,
where it does work.
Government.
They do make many people equal by lowering their standard of living dramatically. Where we have inequality here, where everyone has an absolute standard of living that is higher than in socialist societies that have been tried dozens of times over hundreds of years.
You're inequality only in the sense that we're born unequal.
Not everybody is equal here, but we all have a higher standard of living than the 12 million people that socialism starved to death in the Holodomor. Every single one of us. We still have a higher standard of living than the people do in modern day Russia. Are poor. Our poorest of the poor live better than the upper middle class do today in Russia.
But let's understand, they are not equal. That's a lie. The Russians and all of these socialist countries are their citizens are not equal one to the other.
And productivity. No,
they might have an equality of income and outcome of monetary.
They do this. They do attempt the liberal dream.
You look at the ambassadors. You look at their leaders. Right. They live high because they get to go to all the things that nobody else gets to go to. That are living in these square boxes.
What's hilarious is what they end up doing is bringing the masses down to a very low level of living that is more equal, but disastrous to human life,
but not equal in terms of rights. Stop for a second.
But the elite,
because it's not equal, and let's.
Well, the standard of living is roughly terribly low, egregious. But you're right. The rights are
They
vastly
are
different
under
and
the
not
thumb
protected.
of the people who are holding them in subjection, and the
no
corruption
argument
is rampant, and they have this strata that is nothing like what we have when
They end up making
equality
more
of rights
equality from the bottom
is-
to the top. It's very true.
when we enforce that we are created equal, we all have the same rights, we all have the same duties, we all come together as Americans, we are equal.
In the eyes
In
of the
that,
law.
then there is only your God-given your God-given desires and abilities that separate you. The only thing there, they have the law actually holding them down.
What
We
say
have the same thing here.
you?
It's time to get rid of it.
Tom.
I just want to say you made a really good point. I want to try to get us back to the local booby rollers. And the fact
It's
is
always
that
back to boobs for
just
you.
want to finish this off. This is the most exciting story in the entire areola. The thing is, you make a good point that they literally don't care. They're like petulant children. They come along for their little weekend booby roller, and they're just trying to make a political point at the expense of community standards. There's going to be some kids out there that are like, what's going on? Why are women walking
And
around
isn't
like
it funny?
that?
You can't
Right.
say a peep to criticize them, or
Right.
they will try to ruin your life.
It's called reaction
But
shaming.
they'll show up and shove
they're superior to you.
their
Right, she told
genitals
me.
in your face and expect you to love it and ask for more. They'll sit there and literally, I mean,
That's
look,
tolerance.
you've seen it. Leftists often, they'll sit there and blaspheme God. I have never once condemned or criticized, in harsh terms or whatever. I've never attacked a liberal for doing that, but they'll attack you for disagreeing with their opinions, as if you're asking to bring about the Fourth Reich.
She said to me some things about community standards that I think are outdated, and I told her she only wants. We met on Facebook because she was there supporting a political event to gain common ground with others through engaging the community for a change in common reaction. This is what you're saying. I'm actually giving her the benefit of the doubt. She's trying to find commonality by this
No, she's
thing.
lying.
Give me a break. But she only wants positive psychological encouragement and reinforcement.
Right.
She's not open-minded to my criticism. She's like a bully and a bigot. She's forcing change without regard to objection. Later in the conversation, she says, I'm not forcing anything. And my response was, like a flasher, you're forcing me to see. You're forcing the issue for your political awareness.
LGBT,
Right.
conservatives
Right.
didn't go into their bedroom. They have forced themselves into conservative life. By forcing them to bake these cakes.
Yeah.
Well, there is that, but it started, all the way down in Texas and other places where they did invade the
Preside.
bedroom. They did invade the bedroom, and they served a search warrant wrongly
Good point.
to the wrong house and
And-
caught them and then therefore arrested them.
And we're reasonable enough to acknowledge that's inappropriate, that's wrong, mistakes are made.
Right.
But the left never does. They're open-minded towards everything except for views that differ with their own. That's all.
Well, that's very true.
Well, boys, you got anything else? I think I've squeezed everything out of this one that I can.
All those nutrients.
If you're going to have a boob, why should it be superfluous, like a nipple?
Free the nipples.
Yeah, our
Free the
male
nipples.
see,
Free the
males.
nipples.
We have we have vestigial nipples. They don't do anything.
We know, though, that it's not beautiful women like Melania Trump out there skating, where it's all these Vargas women. It's going to be the people who things you don't want to look at. Have you been to a nude beach? You ever been to a nude beach?
Yeah.
It's not pretty, is it? Maybe the nude beach was. Well, you were there. So
I was at a beach, so yeah.
You were there, so it had to be pretty. Tom McKay here with 3D Politics. We're missing David Van tonight out on exciting
2D politics.
excursion. 2D Politics.
I want to push this. Whenever there's only 2 Daves, I think it needs to be 2D.
Oh
Guys,
my
please
gosh,
make
you
puns from now
If
on.
you'll go with my reaction shaming, I'll go with 2D.
Okay.
Fact is, we've got David Oldham right here, constitutionalgrounds.org. David D'Ambroso right over there. Find him on Facebook at Dave D'Ambroso, and me, Tom McKay, your fine host for 3D Politics right here at 3D Politics. We're going to see you again next week with David Van. Stay tuned on Mondays.
Good night, everybody.
2D out.